we do church online, there are a few rules of live stream etiquette you'll need to follow. First, make sure you wear Sunday's best. Uh-oh. Now that's the ticket. You don't want to look like a crumb bum to the rest of your family, do you? You want this to be as close to your normal church experience as possible, so make sure you brew yourself a nice hot cup of joe. You know what they say, fueled by coffee, saved by grace, whatever that means. And don't forget to spill a little on the living room carpet to make the experience authentic. While you're getting settled in, make sure you grab a journal to take notes on. Your kids won't think you're a cotton-headed nitty-muggin. They'll think you're swell. One great thing about church at home is no one can hear you crunching loudly on snacks. So turn that volume up on the television and snack away. We call them sermon snacks. And you won't have to get up in the middle of the sermon to grab a snack because you came prepared. Finally, you can host a party. No, not a physical party, you junkhead. Host an online party or share the link to our live stream with your friends. It's the easiest way to invite them to church with you. Now you've got it. You've got some moxie.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Yes, I'm wearing all camo because it was the first thing I saw when I got out of bed this morning. So that's what I'm wearing. What are you wearing? Don't tell me because that's weird. We are going to have some fun tonight. We've got some stuff planned for you. Here's what we're going to do. We got an announcement. I got something fun planned for you guys Thursday I want to talk about if you like video games. Number two, we have a new segment, some new content that we're pushing out this week. It's the very first episode of that. Then number three, we are going to dive straight into our message, and then we are going to try and get you into your small groups as quickly as possible so you can have as much time there as possible. But I gotta know, how many of you guys are outside right now? How many of you guys are outside watching this from outside? Because if you are, I'm super jealous. Because I'm in my basement, in a corner, in the deep, dark corner of my basement by the dartboard. But, yeah, I'm jealous. If you're outside watching this, I'm very jealous of you. I'm very, very jealous. So let me know. If you're outside, just come, just post something online. Just go ahead and do something in the chat. Let me know in the chat that you're outside. But I'm, like I said, very jealous of you. So let's get into it tonight. I have one announcement, and it is this. I was going to roll the announcement video, but it's only one, so I'm just going to tell you. So, if you are into some Fortnite, here's what we're going to do. You know, I've been playing some creative with some students the last couple weeks. If you didn't see how last week turned out, make sure you go to the Instagram. We posted the ending of it. It was a little intense. It got me kind of screaming and almost flipping my desk over. But it was a lot of fun. Shout out to you, Alex Mack, for dubbing up with me. But we are going to run the very first ever Cbc Students Fortnite tournament. That is right. We're going to run a tournament playing Fortnite. You can play on any type of system, and here's what you need. You need a duos partner. If you don't have one, feel free to come on, and we will give you one if we have one available to join you. But you need one partner. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a CBC student. It could be your dad if you want. And, oh, that's funny. That's funny. You guys are making fun of me because I'm wearing camouflage. That's right. I just have a floating head by a microphone. But anyways, here is how Fortnite tournament is going to happen. Fortnite tournament goes like this. You get a duos partner. It will be based on kills as well as placement per game. We're going to run a tournament. We'll play as long as we can. We're going to do this Thursday night. Again, that's Thursday night. We're going to do this Fortnite tournament. We're going to give you guys time. Do the family time during the day. Do your school work during the day. Get your best internet connection at night so we can play this Fortnite tournament. You need a duos partner. We'll make the bracket. You guys got to sign up. We will give more details as in like what time we will be starting, all that fun stuff. Probably tomorrow out on like Instagram and like Facebook and like I'll send it up on Snapchat. But we'll give you guys a way to sign in or to be able to register yourself and your partner. And here's what you guys are playing for. It's duos, so it's you and one other person that could win. That will be your team. And what you guys can win is a $50 Amazon gift card to each of you. So we're giving out $100 worth of Amazon gift card. And that is just solely to the champion. $50 to win this tournament. So if you want to play, make sure you find your duo partner. Get up on Josiah Baker. You are completely wrong. Not everyone plays Warzone because not everybody's a Call of Duty sellout. Ha! Gotcha. Anyways, Fortnite tournament is going to be Friday or Thursday this week. So make sure you get your thing. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Feel free to hit me up. If you want to play with us on Thursday, I don't know if we'll still do gaming with Ty since I'm going to have to be doing that Fortnite tournament. But we'll let you guys know details as we go out this week. But find your duos partner, get your system ready, get your skills ready, and let's play some Fortnite, win some dough. Anyways, that is my only announcement for you guys. We are starting a new segment this week, the very first episode of CBC Students SGL Cribs. I don't know how many of you guys have ever seen MTV Cribs, but what MTV Cribs is basically this. It's when it was a TV show back in the day where these basically like really famous and really rich people would show off their multi-billion-dollar mansion or multi-million-dollar mansion. And it was just really funny because they show you, all their 20,000 cars and their big infinity pools and all this fun stuff. Well, we thought, what would be better than showing off a bunch of celebrities in their mansions when we could show off some of your small group leaders and their cribs. So, without further ado, this is the very first episode of CBC Students SGL Cribs featuring your boy, Chris Ackerman. Let's roll.
All right, boys and girls, welcome to CBC Cribs. I'm your host today, Chris Ackerman. Me showing you my crib. Not technically my crib yet because I do not live here, but I did just start paying rent here this month, and it's where my fiance Sydney and I will be living after we get married here in a couple months. So let's check it out. So we're going to start off with the entryway. Right away, boom, hit with this beautiful painting that Sydney did for us. Also have a nice jug there. Here's the master bedroom, and I think she's in there somewhere, so try and be quiet here as show you the master closet. Not really our master closet because these are all Sydney's clothes, so I actually got booted to a closet down the hallway. So speaking of which, we're gonna head into the hallway right now. You can see we got another closet right here, which again is actually all her clothes. I'm still another closet down. Girl has a lot of clothes. But gonna head into the kitchen now here, and pretty much fully stocked at this point. We got all of my favorite snacks and all kinds of silverware there. Got those knives from our registry. Put a link to that below. But yeah, I guess the kitchen's just a good place to go to if you want to be by yourself. Currently only fit one person in the kitchen, unless one of you sits on top of the fridge. Guess next stop here would be the second bedroom den. Not really sure what we're gonna do with this yet, but got a bunch of boxes and everything to put away. As well as a bunch of books, as this will be a home of learned doctors. And for those of you that were waiting, finally reached my closet. Now we head into the living room, well furnished, which with a lot of pieces of blue tape there, signifying where eventually, hopefully, we'll get some furniture. And then for you gamers here, got my PS4 with all of my games and movies and everything, no TV. And then head on to the back patio here to wrap it up, and you can see got all kinds of space. We're going to be throwing huge parties with all our friends. But yeah, that's kind of keep it short and sweet here. But this has been CBC Cribs.
Yo, that's Chris's crib. How do y'all like it? Give it a rating 1 out of 10. 10, definitely a 10. If you give it anything other than a 10, you're wrong. But we are. We are going to be airing a new episode almost every week, as long as your leaders get their videos into me, and of their cribs. So my question is this: who do you guys want to see next? Which crib do you want to see? Because we want to show them all. We want to show you guys where we're living because it's really fun. And it's just some new content that you guys get to check out, because I guarantee you never knew where Chris lived until now. Justin's coming in with a low 5. Jeannie's going 10. Josiah's like a 9 and 1/8. Chris, you're pretty good. It sounds like your crib's pretty nice, dude. Once you get that PlayStation rolling, then we're talking. So, but let me know, who do you guys want to? Chris, you're saying kick Justin out. Yeah, maybe we should. I think I do have the authority to do that. I think I can just be like, 3 dots and hit remove. But I won't do that, Justin, because I love you. But anyways, so that is Chris's crib. We'll be showing one of those almost every week. As we get them in, we'll be showing you guys. A lot of fun, but let us know whose crib do you want to see next. That is SGL Cribs. Anyways, let's get rolling into our week 2 of our series, Atypical. All right, I just got to roll the clip. Anyways, we're going into week 2 of our series called Atypical. Let me make sure I get this in the right place, but not covering my face so you guys can hear me. We're going into week 2 of our series called Atypical, and in this series, we are talking about atypical families. We're talking about some not so normal families in the Bible, and are really, let's be honest, our not so normal families that we have at home too. So this past week, I put some polls, or I put some questions up on Instagram, because I wanted to know a little bit more about the families that are represented by you guys. And it was totally anonymous, obviously, for most of them. So it was nice that most of you guys answered pretty honestly. So here's some things I found out. The first question I asked, was, how many parents do you have / step parents? So how many parents do you have? Both parents and step parents. And it was either 0 to 2, so you have 0 parents to 2 parents, or you have 3 or more. And this is how it played out. 91% of you said you have 0 to 2 parents. 9% of you said that you have 3 or more parents. Okay, that was the first question. Second question was this: how many siblings do you have? Came out split 50-50. 0 to 2 is 50%. And then 3 plus is also 50%. Obviously, I would have loved to put more options on there, but that's what we got. Next question was this: how many of you guys have family members other than your parents or siblings that are living with you? What was interesting is it came out like this. Yes, the answer, so 13% of people answered yes to this question. They have somebody living with them outside of their parents or siblings. And 87% of people said no, that they don't have people living with them other than their families or other than their parents and their siblings. So the next question was, what type of pets do you have? And let us know, if you have pets, and then if so, what type do you have? I saw every type of answer, from a chinchilla to a hamster to a parakeet to lots of dogs, lots of cats, lots of people with multiple cats, lots of people with multiple dogs, lots of people with cats and dogs. It was pretty funny. So lots of different pets represented. And then the last question, a little bit more serious, was this: when was the last time you had a disagreement with somebody in your family? When was the last time you had a disagreement? And let me tell you, the answers that we got back were all over the place. Part of you guys, some of you, or I saw one person said, like, literally as I was getting on Instagram, I got into an argument. Some of you guys are like, I don't really remember when's the last time I got into an argument with somebody in my family. So it was and like anywhere in between. So it was all over the place. My point that I'm trying to make is this: there are a lot of ways that our families are different. There's a lot of ways. None of our families are the exact same. But here's one thing I know for sure: all of our families have disagreements sometimes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little exercise here. So you're going to have to be active on the chat. I'm going to need your help. And I'm going to give you 2 scenarios of families. I want to see how good you are at solving family disagreements. How good are you about solving family disagreements? And obviously because family looks different for everybody, there's 2 different scenarios that we're going to give. I'm going to give as an example of a family that is like kids and parents. But then I'm also going to give a friendship family. So like friends that are so close that they seem like family. So make sure you're active on the chat. The question that you're going to ask for both of them is, what should this family do? So here is the first one. I'm going to read it for you. Max and Jennifer are both very involved with their jobs. Jennifer is often traveling around the world, while Max often works 10 to 15 hours a day. So my man's working like almost 90 hours a week. Their two kids, David and Jasmine, don't get to spend much time with their parents. So David and Jasmine are the kids. They don't get to spend a lot of time with their family or with their parents. David is 15 years old and Jasmine is 17 years old. So they're like your guys' age. And they're pretty used to this arrangement by now, and they can take care of themselves, right? They're independent, they can take care of themselves. But the distance is causing a strain on their relationship with their parents. Max and Jennifer, the parents, want to provide for their family financially, so they work a ton, but they struggle with leaving their kids alone so often. David, the dad, often misses, the son, often misses his parents, but he doesn't want anyone to know how sad he is. How many of you can relate to that? Jasmine doesn't think about her parents much, and they tend to go to her friend's house or tend to go to her friends for advice when she needs someone to talk to. Okay, so that's the predicament. That is the situation we're in. So answer this question. What should this family do? Right? So parents work a lot. Kids were, they're kind of used to it, but the son is really sad about it. The parents are in this weird struggle of we want to provide financially, but we struggle with leaving them alone. So what should this family do? What should a parent do? What should a kid do? Let me know in the chat. What should they do? You let me know. What should this family do? Should they have a conversation? Should they just deal with it? What should they do? Let me know in the chat. I'll wait. I'm going to give you some time. I want you to think about it. I want you to think through it. What should they do? Just maybe talk it out. Yeah, totally. Maybe for some of them, some of you maybe are like, hey, deal with it. Your parents are paying for stuff. They're providing you a life and a family. Great. That's what we'll do. That's what they should do. I totally agree. Prioritize family time. Families should find a time that all of them can agree to have a video call. Maybe on the weekend they can find time, and also they should make a group chat for all of them to talk on. Totally. So maybe they should open communication. I totally feel that. Yeah, 100%. They need to prioritize this family. They need to. Set a time in the week to see each other. Stop letting stuff drive their need to work so much. They are out of the country. They aren't poor. That's fair. That's fair. It's fair, coming in hot. Family meeting. Yeah. How many of you guys have ever had a family meeting before? I did once growing up, and it was because I was sick of chores. I never saw the light of day again. Anyways, let's move on to our next one. Our next one, again, this is a friendship family. So this is a family that are all these are friends that feel like a family. So here is the situation with this. Rachel, Maria, and Blake grew up in the same neighborhood. Okay, so there's three friends: Rachel, Maria, and Blake. One dude, two girls. All three of them have had difficult home lives, but they've always had each other. They always have each other. You see, Maria. Okay, so they've been best friends since they were in diapers. They once made this pact, right? How many of you guys have ever done this? They made a pact that they would always be family, no matter what things are going on. But the thing is that things have been changing recently for them. Maria found out she's been transferred to a new school, away from Rachel and away from Blake. Blake just got a new girlfriend, and he's been spending less times with those two and more time with his girlfriend. How many of y'all have been there before? All three of them are worried that their friendship family might be coming to an end. So answer this question. What should this family do next? What should this family do next? Let me know in the chat. What do you think this family should do next? What do you think these three friends should do? They're all drifting apart. What should they do? You tell me. You tell me, what do you think they should do? Should they just kind of say, deal with it and grow apart? Or do you think they should, what do you think? What should they do? Communicate? Some of you are just kind of giving in to the last thing that you guys were, or the last situation, what should these friendships do? Imagine that you were in this situation. What should these friends do? What should they do next? They're all feeling like they should, they're starting to distance, not social distance, like for real distance. All right, Aaron, you're saying that they can all still be friends. Life comes with different seasons, but it doesn't mean they should separate. They should be happy for each other and support each other. Yeah, for reals. I feel you. They should support each other. Okay, that's a good one. Somebody else, what do you guys think? What should these friends do when it comes to their situation that they are in? At least one of them should put out their feelings, and in turn that will help others open up. One of you guys said, life is tough, man. Maybe talk to each other and discuss time that they can see each other. Totally. So a lot of what you guys are saying is just kind of try and work it out. Communicate. Talk with one another. That's totally true. So let's think about some other questions here, okay? I'm just going to be real here. Let's think about some other questions. What was typical about those families? Like what was atypical? So like what was something that was like out of the ordinary for those families? And then in what ways could you maybe relate to the untypical family, right? Like what was something you could relate to with those families? And then lastly, kind of what we were talking about, like what advice would you give to these families? You see, when it comes to our families, who says what typical really is? Like, let's be real here. Who says what typical really is when it comes to family? Sometimes we let other people's definitions and their views of what's normal shape our view of our own family. But like we said last week, like what Mitch said last week, no matter what kind of family you come from, no family is typical. No family is typical. Your family is already atypical, but what if God is calling your family to be even more atypical than it already is? You see, every family has imperfections, every family has problems, every family has struggles, but typical families either try to handle them on their own or they never handle them at all, right? Maybe some of you are like, yeah, that's my family. When there's tension in the room, we don't say anything. We just let it go off, and a couple days later, it's all fine. Maybe some of you are like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure it out right now. But see, here's the thing. Atypical families, on the other hand, they invite God into their imperfections. They invite God into their problems. They invite God into their struggles. You see, last week we said that there's no family that is too simple or too complex for God to use. Your family can be used by God to do atypical things in the world, but the question is, how? You see, at every point, every family experiences difficulty or conflict. You see, you might be experiencing one of those situations right now. We're all locked up, we're all quarantined, we're all in our houses, and let me tell you, life, when you're living with the same people, every minute of the day gets tricky. You see, typical families, they might try to handle these types of situations on their own, or they just ignore the problems and hope they go away. But atypical families know that they can't handle them on their own. They know that they need to ask God for help. You see, last week, we met the family of Adam and Eve, the world's very first family. We saw how their story went super wrong as a result of the choices that they were making, that their choices to disobey God and to hurt each other. But because God is a God of grace, God used their families to do something amazing, to one day bring Jesus into the world. So today I want to introduce you to another family. This family lives many generations after Adam and Eve, and they were atypical in kind of like their own way. You see, you may have heard of a guy named Abraham before. He's an important person in history of our faith because of an important promise that God made to him. And so I want to learn more about Abraham's life, specifically with his relationship with his nephew, Lot. And so we start off here in Genesis 13, starting at verse 1. It says this: So Abram, who is Abraham, went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into Negeb. Now Abram was very rich in livestock. He was very rich in silver and in gold, and he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. At the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord, and Lot, again his nephew, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. So the land couldn't support both of their families, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. They couldn't live together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. So basically, Abraham's people were mad at Lot's people and vice versa. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land as well. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. Basically, get out of my face, bro. If you take the left hand and I take the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. See, Abraham and Lot, they were a lot like our families today in some ways, and a lot different, obviously. But one way that they're similar is that they fought. In fact, they fought so much that if they had continued living near each other, they probably would have hated one another, right? So Abraham literally moved to completely different cities. When's the last time you've had a fight with your mom or dad that forced you guys to move to different cities? I don't think any of you. But this is what is happening to Abraham and Lot. So we'll get back to Lot in just a second, but I want to tell you a little bit more about Abraham so you can understand just how atypical his family was. So this is Genesis 18, starting at verse 1. It says this. There we go. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree while I bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, do as you have said. And Abraham went quickly into the tent to Sarah and said, quick, 3 seahs of flour, fine flour, knead it and make cakes. Man, I wish somebody ran into my house and said that. And Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds. Now, this is not the cheese curds from Culver's, as much as you may be missing them. He took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, she is in the tent. The Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, very old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah, basically saying that she could no longer have kids. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, am I worn out, and my Lord is old? Shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, no, but you did laugh. You see, here's the thing. Abraham and Sarah were super old, like really old. They didn't have any kids, but they were visited by like these messengers from God who told them that Sarah was going to have a baby. So imagine with me, your grandma comes up to you saying that God sent her messengers to say that she was going to have a baby. You'd probably be a little concerned about God or grandma's mental state, right? I'd be a little concerned saying, Grandma, things don't work that way like that. But that's how atypical Abraham's family was. Okay, so now back to Abraham and Lot. So in Genesis 18, it says this. Then the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way. The Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great nation, and a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him, for I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know. Abraham intercedes for Sodom. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" So this is Abraham talking to God. And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous people in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Abraham answered and said, "Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you really destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? So he's basically saying like, hey, if there's only 5, like if you find 50 people and then all of a sudden 5 of them lack, are you seriously going to destroy the earth or destroy the place? And he decided, and he said, picking up right at the end of verse 28, and he said, "I will not destroy if I find 45 there." Again, he spoke to him and said, "Suppose 40 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." Then he said, "Oh, let not the earth be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 are found there." He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." He said, "Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." Then he said, "Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." And the Lord went his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So, Abraham and Lot had this super long history of disagreements, right? Remember, they fought so much that they had to move to different cities. But when Abraham learned that God was going to destroy Sodom, right? This was the city where Lot lived. Abraham decided to make a choice. He pleaded with God on Lot's behalf. And in response to Abraham's prayer, Lot and his family were saved. Now, last week we said that if you want God to use your family to do atypical things, sometimes you have to be the first person in your family to step up. You have to be the first one in your family to do something atypical. That's what Abraham did. When you're fighting with someone in your family, it isn't typical to do what Abraham did. The typical response is to either fight back, to hold a grudge, to give them the silent treatment. But Abraham chose to do the atypical thing. He prayed for Lot in the middle of their conflict. He didn't wait for an apology. He reached out first through prayer. Now, this seems to be so simple, but it's so atypical. Wow. Here's my big point. Hopefully they got your attention. Not so typical families pray for each other. That's our big idea for tonight. That not so typical families, atypical families, are ones who pray for each other. You see, just like Abraham saw prayer change his family for the better, and you know, I've seen it in my own life where change, where prayer has changed my family for the better. Prayer can change your family for the better too. Every family has imperfections. Every family has problems. Every family has struggles. But atypical families, not normal families, invite God into those situations through prayer. Prayer does not have to be complicated, right? Because some of you might be sitting there going, you know what? I think, that's really cool. It's really great. But how do I do that? How do I pray for my family? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as this. Thanking God for your family. Even if you're not sure that you mean it. Let's be real. We get those moments. But thanking God for your family. Maybe it's asking God to give you love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, like all the fruits of the Spirit, the things that we talked about last week. Maybe it's asking God to give you wisdom to resolve a conflict that you had or a disagreement that you had. Maybe it's asking God to do the same for the family member that you're fighting with. Maybe it's simply this. Thanking God for helping your family. Think right now. Think about right now about a recent disagreement that you had with a family member. Or maybe it's a disagreement you seem to have often. Now imagine how that conflict could be transformed if you stopped to pray instead of fight. How do you think prayer could change your attitude, your temper, your perspective? How do you think prayer could change the person that you're fighting with? How do you think prayer could change the family's pattern of behavior in the long term, right? So maybe your family's like, we're always fighting. How could prayer change that pattern? You see, it's interesting that Abraham chose to pray. It's interesting that Abraham chose to pray for Lot because they never actually reconciled. The story never says that they reconciled. In the middle of their conflict, Abraham went first. He did something atypical first because by choosing to pray for Lot instead of like continuing to fight. So this week, what if you decided to go first? What about when disagreements happen, instead of screaming or fighting or holding grudges or struggling to find common ground, what if you prayed for each other? Because not so typical families, they pray for one another. So if you commit to praying for your family more than you fight with them, imagine how God might be able to use your family to do atypical things in the world. That's my challenge for you this week. Over this next week, when you get into an argument, when you get into a fight, when you get into that moment where you want to rip your sibling's head off, how can you pray for them? What could prayer do? How could prayer change that relationship? Because I believe, and I've seen, how it does it miraculously. How it can completely flip a relationship 180. Let me pray for you guys, and then I've got a couple things before we go into small groups. So let me pray. Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for you. We're so grateful for who you are. In the midst of this season, that you can still be a good God, that you still are a good God. You always are a good God. God, thank you for who you are. Thank you that we're able to connect with you through prayer. God, I just pray for our families, pray for our students and their relationship with their families right now. I know it can be really tough. Some of us may not be living in a good home. Some of us may be just at odds with our family members, our siblings, or parents, or grandparents, or whoever we're living with. God, I just pray that you give us the boldness to step up and do something first. Be the first one to do something atypical. God, we love you. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, y'all. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hop into Zoom. We're going to get going on small groups. Don't forget, we've got the Fortnite tournament happening this Thursday. Details will be sent out tomorrow. Other than that, I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Deuces.